And joining me now is Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland. Senator Van Hollen, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Kristen, good to be with you.
It's wonderful to have you. I know you've had a long several days, so we really appreciate your being here in person. You just returned from El Salvador, as I just laid out, to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia. You were rebuffed multiple times from entering the prison where he was initially being held. Secot. He has, as you said, been moved since then to a different facility. Did you accomplish what you set out to on this trip?
I did. I had two missions. One was to ask the government of El Salvador to not be complicit in this illegal scheme with the Trump administration and to release him. I made that request to the vice president. They denied that request. My other major purpose was to just see Abrego Garcia, to see if he's alive. Nobody has heard from him since he was disappeared. He tried to make a phone call from the Baltimore Detention Center after he was illegally abducted, but he couldn't do that. So my purpose was to meet with him, to be able to tell his wife, Jennifer, and his family that he was alive. And despite all the circumstances, he said that his biggest worry was about his family.
Well, it was an emotional news conference with his wife standing there with you. You know, while you were in El Salvador, the White House was counter-programming, effectively releasing information about Mr. Abrego Garcia's background, including a police report suggesting he's a member of MS-13, details about a restraining order from his wife, who ultimately dropped the matter, and a police report in which an officer said he suspected Mr. Abrego Garcia may have been involved in human trafficking. Now, he's never been charged with a crime, but is his past complicating the broader argument that you are trying to make here about due process?
Well, what Donald Trump is trying to do is change the subject. Let's make no bones about that, right? This subject is that the Trump administration is ignoring a Supreme Court order 9-0 to facilitate his return because they admitted in court, the Trump administration, that he'd been wrongfully detained. Now, what I have said is Donald Trump and his administration need to put up or shut up in court. Instead of litigating this through social media, here's what the judge in the court case said, and I want to read it to be precise. On April 16th, she said that the Trump administration had presented no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or to any terrorist activity, end quote. So if you have evidence, take it to the court. That's where we litigate these things. And otherwise, just shut up on social media.
You know, the other thing that we witnessed at the White House this week, Patty Morin, the mother of Rachel Morin, who is a Maryland woman who was murdered by an undocumented immigrant, you're very familiar with this, was at the White House, and she did speak from the White House briefing room. I want to play you a little bit of what she had to say and get your reaction on the other side. Take a look.
To have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do? Or my daughter.
What is your response to Mrs. Morin?
My heart goes out to the Morin family. They experienced an unspeakable tragedy in the murder of their daughter. And I said at the time that my heart goes out to the Morin family. And I'm very glad that the killer of Rachel has been convicted in a court of law. That is how we hold guilty people accountable. The courts of law are also where people get to have their due process, so we don't unfairly punish people who don't have criminal records. And so my view is you can crack down and hold guilty people accountable and also respect the due process rights of everybody who is in court. And I'm not sure why Abrego Garcia's rights should be denied based on an awful murder that he had absolutely nothing to do with.
Let me ask you about the broader optics of this trip. You actually posted your meeting on social media after it took place. The president of El Salvador also posted one on social media trying to mock the moment. He said, quote, Kilmar Abrego Garcia miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. Now, you said these drinks were staged, essentially brought over by waiters who were ordered to do so by the El Salvadoran government. Do you think you walked into a trap here set up by the president of El Salvador?
Absolutely not. They had no intention of letting me meet with Abrego Garcia until they felt the pressure. They felt the pressure from people saying, why are you, complicit in this illegal scheme? Why are you denying his wife, his lawyer, or anybody the opportunity to speak with him? So my mission was to be able to say that he is at least alive. You're right. It's the lengths that both the El Salvadorian president, Bukele, and Donald Trump will go to deceive people are boundless, right? In this case, they did order the waiters, the government people, to bring these two glasses that, appear to be margaritas. I have no idea. We didn't touch them. And they tried to manipulate it to make it look like Mr. Abrego Garcia's margarita had been drunk. In other words, the liquid was lower. But they screwed up in their scheme, because if you look at the rims of the glasses, I don't know if it was salt or sugar, but there's no gap in them. So nobody touched the margaritas. They want to pretend that this is some sort of tropical paradise when he was in one of the most notorious prisons in the world.
You think it was pressure? Was that the key reason, you think, why the government ultimately, as you're about to leave El Salvador, brought him to you?
Yes, absolutely. I think the images of soldiers blocking us from trying to see Mr. Abrego Garcia, and the press conferences we had with local media, where I pointed out that El Salvador is actually violating international law by preventing Mr. Abrego Garcia from having any communication with anybody.
The White House says Mr. Abrego Garcia is never coming back, Senator. How far are you willing to go to bring him back to the United States?
Well, the Supreme Court has said they must facilitate his return, and they have the option of holding Trump administration lawyers in contempt for refusing to do that. I know that the embassy in El Salvador has not been instructed by the administration to lift a finger in accordance with the court order. Now, Attorney General Bondi did say the United States would send an airplane down. So when I met with the vice president of El Salvador, I said, of course, we're not asking you to smuggle Abrego Garcia back to the United States. Just open the prison, let him walk out, and then Attorney General Bondi said, we'll send a plane. So there are also pressures we can put on the government of El Salvador, including through, people deciding not to invest in El Salvador, Americans not traveling to El Salvador. So I think there are other pressure points here.
You mention the courts. Given the fact that the Supreme Court has ordered the administration to facilitate the return of Mr. Abrego Garcia, Mr. Abrego Garcia remains in El Salvador. Do you think that the Trump administration is ignoring the courts? Do you think that the country is currently in a constitutional crisis?
Oh, yes, we are. They are very much flouting the courts as we speak. As the courts have said, facilitating his return means something more than doing nothing. And they are doing nothing. Yes, they're absolutely in violation of the court orders as we speak.
If this is a constitutional crisis, as you say, what should the response be from Democrats? What recourse do you have?
Well, we will keep pushing back. Again, the courts can impose sanctions on the Trump administration. The Trump administration is going to pay the government of El Salvador $15 million to take these prisoners, including the illegally abducted Abrego Garcia. I can tell you when they make that request to the Congress, and because those monies have to be appropriated, I don't think American taxpayers are going to want to spend one penny going to El Salvador to continue to hold somebody illegally and in violation of the United States Constitution.
Let me ask you about the reaction from within the Democratic Party. While some Democrats support you, others say this is not the issue that Democrats should be focused on. Governor Gavin Newsom of California calling Mr. Abrego Garcia's case, quote, the distraction of the day. He argues Democrats are playing right into the hands of President Trump, an issue he wants to be focused on. How do you respond to Governor Newsom?
I don't think it's ever wrong to stand up for the Constitution. And this is not about one man. If you deny the constitutional rights of one man, you threaten the constitutional rights for everybody. I think Americans are tired of elected officials or politicians who are all finger to the wind, what's blowing this way, what's blowing that way. And anybody who can't stand up for the Constitution and the right of due process doesn't deserve to lead.
All right, Senator Chris Van Hollen, thank you so much for being here today. Please keep us posted on this matter. We really appreciate it, and do enjoy a happy Easter with your family.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.